what I wanted to say, and it probably is in my own language and the language of our college, reflecting what John said, just about that process of engaging the student. It's what everyone has shown and everything that we've talked about today. It's because it can be difficult, and that's all I hear when we talk about people teaching stage 6. But using contemporary content, that open discussion, but to create understanding and, importantly, action. Okay, so one of the things, I'm just going to go through a couple of examples of things we have used last year, this year, and when I say contemporary content, we change it quite frequently. But looking at, like I've looked at Angela and Kathy's ideas, and there are so many things that I would love to be able to develop and take on board with them as well. So this is just one of the things that we have used before when we just the initial engagement with the children, and it's almost like what Anthony said to us about what is it about being Catholic. So here's one way, and one thing we look at is just asking our students, well, what does it actually mean to be Catholic? And one of the things that they often come up with, and we sort of build this collage and just have a look at the many facets that to them they understand what the Catholic Church and being Catholic is about. So they would come up with some of these things. And so it would go on. They'd look at our school. They'd look at some Indigenous aspects. So when we come up with these sorts of things, then I would sort of say, okay, what are we going to do? If we need to say we know what it is to be Catholic, they would go and do a little bit of research on one of those particular aspects. So that would be one thing that they could come together and say, well, I have a bit of an understanding now, because many don't, and they will say, what's the difference between being Christian and Catholic? Together, I would think that we could have a class activity where they're actually describing the Catholic Church, and that could come up with something creative. It could come up with a mind map. If you were working on literacy, they could be working on a combined essay where they could be having sections that would try to link that idea together. One of the other things that we've actually looked at, and I mean that particular article was very famous, and the link is there to click onto that. But looking at the actions, well, actually looking at Pope Francis himself as the person, but this particular article has 10 things that the students then can see, how does this describe the Catholic Church of 2015? So that's something too, that sort of gives them that bit of a hook, and they've got some interest in working further with that. Another way that we then lead the discussion is then, well, for them personally, they've looked at the church, they've looked at leadership. What does it mean to actually be a Catholic person? And so by looking at a whole variety of people to come up with characteristics, practices, ideas and beliefs that lead the students into understanding that a lot of the things they do and the teachers and their families do are being Catholic. We sort of just lead through that discussion. And then our assessment task has been last year and is this year actually looking at how is our school a Catholic community, looking at all these things that we do. And the students are given an outline, but I would love to use your process and sort of go through that process of a project where they go through and they're getting marked as they go. And they interview, they photograph or they video ways the school demonstrates being Catholic. Now they can choose whether they come up with a poster with film clips to display around the school. Schools that are 7 to 12 have often used these to introduce, to show at assemblies, information evenings, and I haven't got out. So that's just about the way the school is Catholic. But the other one, and I'll just see if I've got it up here, otherwise I'll explain it to you. What our students are doing at the moment, they're actually looking at the school, our patron, so our charism, which is St John Baptist de La Salle. They're looking at his life to introduce that and to look at the ways our school is Catholic through him. We also have 10 patrons, and I have a choice to look at that particular patron and then the actions of the school, the students, outreach work that we do. And that's what they're currently putting together in an iMovie to show as well. So that's their project currently. But it's just one way that they can, well, I suppose it's promoting, is putting it out there to the rest of the community. But I have heard when it's for Year 7s with peer support, when you've got that connect too, it's a really nice way to sort of say, well, this is what our school's about. And it also gives the students an audience, a particular audience that they can show it to. Okay. The other thing that we do, and these are really good resources, well, maybe your schools buy them too. We get these for the staff. So they're bought for the staff, and I often try and grab them and have class sets. But they're very relevant articles. Our studies of religion teachers use them as well. And so we often just use these as part of our resources and lessons to go through. I have had in the past students entering the Young Journalist Award and using that as a part of a task or an activity that we do. I would even use this in the Being Catholic to see how being Catholic is being ecumenical and interfaith. So they would be the sorts of activities and articles that we would also use. And the other thing that I think we have to do, and one of the things that we talk about also, are the challenges that the Catholic Church has. Because the students, no doubt, ask, they want to know, they're seeing things in the media all the time. So looking at these as examples, and there are certainly others, that the students then can do some research and see what official positions are, what does the church say, what do the bishops say, and look at the response through the church teachings as well. And this can be, and I often say to them too, okay, we've talked about refugees, why don't you go home and have a discussion with your family over dinner and see what happens? And they do have a laugh and they go, oh, it would be a bit difficult, or, in our electorate people don't believe in this and that sort of thing. But it's just trying to bring it out there, giving them an understanding, but also giving them the knowledge that they can engage in discussions, they can form an opinion, and they can understand the reasons behind and the teachings of the Catholic Church and what they would and should be standing for. So they're the sorts of things that we do at Cronulla at this point. So, any questions about anything, or anything that you would like to add, any other magnificent ideas, because we've heard many today. So any other ideas that you do with your Being Catholic units of work? No?
You mean what ideas of things to do?
Well, I don't know. If you've got other things that you think, well, we do something that's great as well, I'm just curious. Do you?
I get my senior kids to, the girls to, I was talking to somebody else, set up a podcast on linked into a controversial interview. I know a lady from the States, the public broadcaster, Krista Tibbett, she has a religious program, I think it's called Being There.
Okay.
Being, it's on, anyway, Krista Tibbett, PBS,
Yeah.
in the States. And she has interviews and research into really severe people who have made an impact on religion and just understanding who we are as beings in the world today. And I normally get kids a range of people to select from.
That's good.
And if they can tune in with the earphones into a podcast, then report on the interview and give feedback to class.
That's a good idea.
And have it make sure it links up with one of their part of the syllabus. But it's something to engage the kids to see that we are trying to connect them with the world. And also, they've got great, their digital connections these days puts them in touch with the bigger world, but there's a whole lot of spirituality happening there too. Mm. And to guide them in a way to use it responsibly.
That's
to get the spiritual sources that are coming through, like our social justice pages
and that's what it is. A, it's connecting them, and it's B, connecting them with the appropriate material too. And that's good. Okay, well, thank you.
I know that when I teach the sacraments in this unit, you probably use a busted halo.
Yes.
And just because they're quick and they're good, and then break them up and then they have to make their own one like that.
No, they're really good. So
because it gives them a sense of that's what it should look like, and it can be catchy, and it just gives them that grounding.
I mean.
On YouTube, you have busted halo.
Busted halo, and And there's a really good one on, we use it with the extraordinary ministers for Holy Communion, and it shows you how you should receive communion, and it's quite hilarious, but it's extremely respectful at the same time.
And church seasons, it's really good. I feel like at Lent and Advent.
No, we have used that. No, that's good. Okay. Want to show your video?
Could we send Maree, please?
No, that's fine.